little bit, you guys end up dropping containment. I'm in chat, by the way. Yo, how you doing? Yeah, I saw you in chat, so I was very happy that you were here. That's awesome. And I'd actually seen you once before, but I can't quite remember where. First thing I wanted to point out in this VOD, because we don't look at Caustic VODs a lot, and I get a lot of questions about him because there's so few information about him. At the start here, I like that one of the first things you do is just pop a barrel, right? Caustic is one of the legends that can instantly deploy his ability. It can also almost instantly activate. It'll slow enemies down and it will obscure you. So even if you don't go for the kill, it's nice. Just pop it in wherever you go. You'll know if people are chasing you and you'll have a way out. Here as well, putting it in the corner so you can defend it is very nice. Now once again, good evening Raider, how are you doing? Once again, just like the other VOD and just like his common dispatch, you don't have armor at the start of the game, which is not ideal. Where you don't have armor, you have to be careful. You want to use cover, corners and high ground as your armor. So right here, I want to see you corner peeking this and using barrels or gas to figure out where the enemies are before they can see you. Alright, so nice barrel usage here. You've got the entire room covered, so you can do, you know you're safe. I would have gone to high ground here because you know people have already come through this area. I'm not allowed to chat out of coffee. Oh no, monkey. Oh. Trying to get better at getting better. You? I feel you, dude. But I played a lot today and it went very well, so I'm happy. So right here, you know that a couple people have already left this building. So when you push out here, just go for the roof of this building. Just because the high ground automatically makes you safer, gives you a better overview. You can check all of the buildings at once while you're in a safe place. So that's just generally better for scouting around. Alright, you see that it's looted, and now you go for the roof. Very nice. Alright, what's best, using barrels to block the door or put it to the side for pressure? That depends on what you're trying to achieve. If you put a barrel to block the door, but you're not defending the door, they can kick it down and wait, and then they have that flanking position from that side, which gives you like a 12-second window or so to tell your team that you're being flanked from that side, which is fine. If you put it on the side, then well, it depends if there's a window. They can shoot it out, but I generally prefer putting it on the side just because it's not visible. So if somebody flanks in, you're sure you'll be alerted. If it's on the door, then it might be blocked and you might be sure that it'll go off if they kick the door. But if they might just see it and decide, well, we're not going to push from that side. But we know there's people in there, we're going to push from the other side. But if you're, for instance, holding this building down, right, and you have one door down here, you have one door in the back, then I would say block one door that you're not holding and one of your teammates is holding, and then put it to the side for pressure somewhere where you're holding, because you can always throw another one. It's hard to say. Maybe in this situation, scouting and trying to get the guns first is optimal. Exactly, but it's nice that he dropped one instantly, because it means that as soon as somebody shoots at him there, he has the gas to obscure him, and he has a way out, which is pretty unique to him in that situation. It depends. Sometimes I block doors and hallways to try and pressure them into another entrance. Exactly, it's tough to say because they're both very useful and it depends exactly on what you want to force the enemies to do or what you're trying to achieve. Alright. Now at this point, by the way, I would have already backed off because containment looks pretty well looted at this point, right? You saw that this left side is looted, you know that they went through this building. You then see that the middle here is even looted as well. So at this point, I'm like, I don't have an armor, I have an RE45 with 40 bullets, this sucks. I'm gonna tell my team that I'm gonna back off, back to the sheds here and then possibly Bunker Hill or the side here. Just try and get an armor and get some better loot, obviously. Unless they're determined to fight, then I'll hold high ground and wait for them to need backup. Because by myself, I can't do much here. Should have fell back to the cliffs? Yeah. It's too bad. It happens though. That's why we look at our VODs. Right, nice. So you guys do back off here and you get back to your team. That's very good. One thing I will mention, it's fine here. Before we look at that, it's fine here because people might still chase you through this building and it's nice to know. So these traps are a decent warning system, although they're very visible through the windows, which is not ideal. But something I noticed in your VOD that we'll be looking at a bit is that you never pick up your barrels, which leads you very often to be in a situation like this where your last barrel is on cooldown. Now, might want to pick up traps you don't need. Exactly, Joel. That's what I was going to say. Pick up at least one trap you don't need whenever you go to a new area, whenever you leave a little room, because if your teammate goes down and you need to res him, you pop down that trap, you wait for 2 seconds, you shoot it, and you can res him for free because they can't see you. You need to use some cover when you're caught out in the open. You need to pop a battery when you know that they're pushing you. That's when you need that one barrel that you can shoot. right? That's the power of caustic, is having a barrel that you can shoot and having it ready, because there's a small delay on when you can shoot it. If you don't do that, then you should never be outside ever as caustic. Just grab a weapon, grab a peacekeeper, sit in the room with your barrel and just hug it for the rest of the game, because there's no point being outside if you don't have that barrel to actually give you something to work with. So good barrel usage, but make sure you always have one ready for if you need it in a fight. It was a pretty obvious bamboozle, but that's okay. And your teammates clean up. So hopefully you can get an armor here. You're all three looting the same box here, standing out in the open. Especially if you're on console, you guys can't strafe. You're pretty nadeable right now. You don't have a Watson, so seeing both of my teammates on this box, I'd have probably just gone top and loot it there. It's not really worth the risk of being Arcstar up right now. Especially since Arcstar is now a one-shot you without armor, and you don't have armor still. Right. You right here, by the way, nobody could hear it, but I know because I went through the VOD a little bit before. You made a call that you're looted enough and that you're ready to take a fight, but you don't have armor, so containment is not really an ideal area to fight without armor. Also, the barrel is handy for instant cover while out in the open. Exactly, so it's for rezzing, it's for healing, it's for cover. But of course you want to pop it 2 seconds early so that you can shoot it, so that they can't shoot it at the base. Because if they do that, you don't get your cooldown back. Alright.
They were fighting over there.
Right here, I'll note here. As soon as you know that there's an enemy here, you push up all the way to the edge of this high ground. And this is where I wanted to draw for a second. Which I can do. Can I do that? I can do that. Great. Alright, so when you're on a high ground, I can't do that because I need to click it back first. When you're on a high ground, like this, the edge of that high ground right here is your cover, right? This is why high ground works as cover. If somebody's standing right here, they can shoot you. If somebody's standing underneath here, they can't shoot you. That looks terrible, but you get the idea, right? So if you know that an enemy is right here at the bottom, then you want to just walk up far enough to just see them. And if you take one step back, you can't see them. Because that means that if you take one step back, they can no longer shoot you.
They were fighting over there.
And where you walk is all the way up to the edge right here. See how your entire body is now exposed? So think of it like somebody being, well, that's not quite high enough. Think of it as somebody being up here, where this is their cover. If they're standing in the back here and only their head is poking out, they're very hard to hit. But they can shoot you because your eyes are at the top, and you know, the FPS games don't make sense with where your bullets are coming from. If he's standing at the edge right here, then his entire body, look, yay, I'm Pathfinder, shoot me, I don't have a headshot hitbox, I love you. He's standing and his entire hitbox is visible, and he will need to walk all the way back around in order to hide his body. Whereas here he just needs to take one step back or one step to the side. So you'll never forget that now because of my beautiful drawing. I recommend bringing a few extra thermite grenades for extra area denial if you're sticking close to buildings tight areas. Absolutely. Thermites are more useful on Bangalore and on Caustic than on most, because they can obviously obscure the area, and when people chase you through it, it can be very difficult to see the fire if you're sprinting. So it can be very nice if people are chasing you. And also then those damage numbers will stay longer when they go out of your gas, so you'll actually be able to see where they're chasing you much longer, which is very nice. Right, and right here, you know that there's somebody stuck inside of this little box. There's only one exit to the box, right at the front here. So if you're going to chuck a thermite, chuck it to the front here, you know, so that he can't go out. He's stuck here and you guys can just pelt bullets down on him. Seems more effective.
Gray body armor, hit him for 13.
Right, so you know that your teammate is engaging on a Pathfinder here in the back. You know that there's somebody in this box and you don't know anything about the other enemies yet, so I'd push up with your Pathfinder. Doing that now, that's nice. Don't know if that barrel actually landed where you wanted it to. I don't think it did, but that's alright. You at least, right now, you have one barrel charged, so remember, for the next however many seconds this is till it charges up, I think this is another like 5 seconds or so, you do not use this barrel. This is your safety barrel. You hug this barrel until you need it. And we're gonna see in a second exactly why. Nice, you got a shield, you have cells, so just block that door, heal up real quick. Don't go for the heal, which is a bit risky. Right here, you know there's an enemy here. You just downed somebody, so they know exactly where you are. So just use that bolter shield for cover, and you can reload and pop a cell. It's free. Why not? Right. And here, there's the guy for the armor. That's nice. Keep in mind that as you walk to this body, you can't block the door anymore, and you can't strafe when looting on console. So if you go for this body here, because you don't know exactly where that other enemy, I think it was a lifeline, went, just grab the body, ignore the rest. You don't need that backpack right now. You can grab it after the fight. It's okay. I would do the same thing, just pointing it out. Alright, again, 15 seconds right now till you have another barrel. Save one, because in a second here you're gonna need it.
Good shit.
Alright,
I'm gonna go get
you win the team fight. You don't know if there's one more team around or if there's people coming for this, whatever, 3 minutes of shooting that you've been doing, you know, asking people to come and third party you. So when you drop down here, wouldn't it be nice if you had a barrel you could pop on this corner and shoot so that you have this area covered in gas and then res? Because you're on low ground and everybody that's in the area has heard you fight and has had the opportunity to get into a good position or to flank you right now. You guys are both still damaged, so while you're resing you're vulnerable. It would just be nice, you know? You'll probably be fine, but it would be nice.
Bro, I do so much goddamn damage.
And it might not make a difference here, but sooner or later it will. Because there will be a third party and you'll be happy to be alive. Right, let's have a look. You get a ping that there's enemies towards the artillery area and you decide to go through bottom. So far, so good. You're splitting up the sideline with your team. Nothing wrong with this. Right here, you don't know anything about this open area. Your teammate didn't push up further than the edge. You saw that because he was standing here the entire time. He's holding this, meaning the enemies could be anywhere holding anything outside of this door, right? So as you run up here, you just want to close this door and look through the window real quick. You don't want to be looking at the floor. Those termites are not as important as these enemies right now because you don't know where they are. And you don't want to... You're closing the door behind you now, which is usually a good thing if you're going through a building or being chased. But the enemies are in front of you, so now it's a bad thing because you're slowing down your retreat, right? That's not ideal. And right here, once again, if you have high ground, your cover is this. So you want to have only your head poke out. And the entire rest of your beautifully drawn, happy body with a giant wiener needs to be behind, right? So step back a little bit farther than ADS to see what's going on, and then you only have to take one step back if an enemy does end up being there. Other than that, you use the corner nicely here. You had a trap down, which is very good.
I cracked this pass for 120.
Trap inside ended up working out. So far, nothing really too wrong with this. Nice use of thermite. Since a couple patches ago it breaks doors and it will damage people through on the inside, which is good. Right here, the only thing I dislike is that you turn your back to this guy. You're like, he's got a thermite on him, he's got a trap on him, he's already dead, right? Well, he's not. He's not dead yet. He's probably going to die, but he has time to shoot you in the back here. You don't know if he has a peacekeeper as well. He's definitely going to die, but he can take you down with him, or at the very least he can do some damage on the way down. So that's not ideal, because if you take that damage when you don't need to, and his teammates push in while your barrels are now gone and all on cooldown, because you didn't save one, that's GG. Luckily, he runs straight into you, and it's a 100 damage peacekeeper shot. Nice shooting, by the way. Now you want to hold the door and heal or armor swap. They're dead. Pretty good. So, good barrel usage. Always want to save one, and you take it a little bit too easy on a couple enemies. As long as there's more than one enemy alive, definitely be very careful of your health. You're here in an area unlike containment, where you probably won't get third-partied, because you're holding this enclosed area where you're pretty much on the high ground, so people are very slow getting to you. So it's way safer here to take damage, but still, it was unnecessary to turn your back to that Pathfinder until he was dead. Just make sure that he's dead first, so he doesn't shoot you in the butt. I think I should have healed there. I could have blocked the door and used the battery. The door was already hit once, which is why I wouldn't have popped the battery. A cell would have been fine. You also could have opened the door, Peacekeeper shot him, that would have been fine. But after throwing that nade and the door blowing up, I would have definitely just healed on the side or Peacekeeper beat him or something to ensure that he can't shoot me until he is dead. I don't want to give him the opportunity to clutch, basically. Okay, there's a ping that there's an enemy here. You guys have about 2 minutes until the zone comes, so plenty of time. You are far on the outside of it. Not too far, it's luckily not very far, but you guys are always very late with your rotations, which is risky. Alright, so right here, are you going to cut and post this on YouTube? Yeah, I guess so. Right here we've got one of those situations where I want to talk about barrel usage. You did it very well in enclosed spaces, but the philosophy outside is pretty much the same. You know that these enemies are here near the smoke, and I'm actually going to draw this out. I need to make this smaller. There we go. You know that the enemies are somewhere here, and you know that your teammates are shooting from the left here, right? This is your teammate shooting from the left. So you're going to go around the right here to shoot, which is fine. But you're going to be closest to the enemies and you're caustic. It is likely that you will get pushed. So what is your escape plan? Right here you have none. You're out in the open. There's no escape plan here. You are, however, caustic, which gives you one unique escape plan. As you push up before you aim at the enemies on this corner, pop a barrel right here. Right? You want to have a barrel right here, then you go around the corner and ADS, and by the time you get hit, the cooldown on the barrel is done and you can shoot it to set it off whenever you want. So if they laser you, you need to pop a battery. If they push you, that's exactly when you pop this barrel. And that's why you want to have it behind the corner that you use for cover, so that they can't shoot it at the bottom, because it's your escape path. In the meantime, while you're fighting, your cooldown will be coming back and you'll have more. Of course, if you start to fight with 3 charges, you put one there, you put one here, and you have one for either side, so you also can't get flanked. They can push through it, and if you're still healing, you'll still die, but it's a lot better than having to run out through the open as a caustic. Right, decent shots here. You're standing out in the open for no reason. You had a truck here that you were hiding behind, so just use that. You can literally aim at them from here. Look where you're standing. You have a sideline on these guys, so there's no need for you to go stand out in the open here. Or if you want to walk forward, then at least use this container as cover, you know? Where you're standing right now doesn't make sense. If you're going to thirst this guy, you want to stand here on the right, you want to stand behind the container, behind the tank, whatever, but you don't want to show yourself. They're so high up that it's easy to get a sideline on them every time they peek, but it's difficult to force a sideline because they can just step backwards, so... Alright, this looting here seems unnecessary. There's nothing you need right now that'll make a difference this fight, so I'd focus on the fight ahead because they have a superior position. I do very much like, something I want to point out, is the barrel you put underneath the zipline. This is something you do a lot. This is very good. It obviously makes it more difficult for them to use it. Now they can just jump off early, but it's just a nice trick if you're a caustic player, if you've got all charges and you want to put one down somewhere below the zipline, a nice place. Right. Also, of course, right here, if you get lasered and you need to heal, you pop a battery you pop a barrel behind this tank or behind the rock because you're saving a charge always. You wait for 2 seconds, you shoot it, and then you start healing, so that you have the gas, make you harder to see and to hit. And then you pray to God that they don't have a digi threat, because otherwise you're fucked anyway. But you know, that's caustic. I know your feeling. I play Bangalore, so. Right. Your teammate's pushing up. You're too late with this ultimate. There's one teammate already down. So the moment you see your teammate pushing up and you know you're not going to make it because you're still healing, chuck a nade or chuck that ulti up there so you can at least help him, or tell him that you're going to be late. Either one is fine, but this is ranked, so team play and communication are key. So I say this is fine, it's not fine. You need to clean this up. This would be fine if it was casuals, but this is diamond rank. Your engages need to be a little more on point. And because you're the one that's behind here, it was your responsibility to let them know that you weren't there. Other than that though, you guys clean up, and that's very nice. Right, what else did I want to point out? This entire fight, you've been using the alternator with disruptor rounds and the wingman. And I always talk a bit about using weapons that complement each other, and usually we talk about ranges. In this case, ranges are slightly different on them, but with the hop-up, the alternator is a shield break weapon. That's what it's effective at. And at health, it's not that effective. It's not terrible, but it's not the best. And the wingman is also with hipfire, if somebody pushes you really close, is not ideal because the hipfire has been nerfed. It has good strafe speed, but it's not the best close range weapon. So this is also a poke weapon. It's a medium range weapon that you use if you're like behind a rock down here shooting to the top, if you're shooting people from far away, not if you're flanking and rushing in. The alternator is a weapon that you use if you're poking from far away, behind a rock, shooting people at the top. They're the same thing, right? They're both poking weapons, they both serve the same purpose, so drop one of these for something else. I think if I used the ult after I only used one cell, it would have been good. Yeah, it would have been slightly late, but it would have been a lot better timing. Because ideally you would throw it when he's not even halfway up the zipline yet, so that it's actually expanded and I can't see him the moment he jumps off. That would be ideal. Obviously, human reaction time, whatever, making decisions is not going to be ideal. After one cell would have been fine, would have been pretty good. For sure. Alright, so you guys end up looting up here. I think that's everything. Rotation being too slow, I did mention that, so you guys are going to end up being pushed out by zone here, which obviously in ranked puts you in a risk, because people might already be holding zone, but it doesn't end up being the case, so we move on. Alright, and here there is a call. I'm going to turn up comms a little bit, because I heard this when I was looking for the fight. I had to point it out.
We gotta go.
Alright, so for those of you that didn't hear it, he said, they're already there, we have to go.
Shit, right over here. They're going in the circle early. They're already there. We gotta go.
Yeah, you said they're going to circle early. They're already there. We gotta go. And this is your mistake. It's not the mistake that ends up losing you the game, but it is the mistake that ends up putting your team in a bad position. Alright, so for 30 more seconds, you've got this very large area to work with. And then, of course, it's going to go down to this tiny circle, which one team has already gotten a good position in. Now, when you rotate, especially in rank, to the new circle, you either want to be the first or the last team to rotate. If you're the first team to rotate to a location like this high ground, you can take it for free. If you're the second team to rotate, you have to contest this team, and then the third team can decide if they're gonna third party that or not, depending on what they want to do, or if they want to wait for one of you to win the fight and then just clean up, right? So you never want to be the team in the middle. That's why this call is the biggest mistake of this game. You see that they have zone, and you're afraid because that's a strong position that you will inevitably have to push, and because of that you say that you guys have to push up, but you end up taking risks because of it, because you don't have a good engage. Now luckily I said this isn't the mistake that cost you the game, because as you guys push up, the other team had just made the same mistake. They just now started engaging on the same team. So saved by the bell here. You still have 27 seconds to use this huge area to move around in a safe way, get behind one of these teams inside of zone, and then contest the position safely and be the third party, rather than just make this a big mass fight when you're behind trees, which are, you know, their cover. So I'm happy that you're using them, but they're obviously not an ideal position, especially with somebody on your left and somebody on your right. ult. Yeah, you should throw your ulti on them there. That's fair. I always hold on to it for too long as well. Right, some decent shots, but obviously you're exposed to 6 players here, right? A 3 can block maybe 1 or 2 line of sight, so you're gonna get lasered here, even if you hit only headshots, even if you have aimbot. This is not ideal. Of course, you always want to save a barrel, drop it down, wait 2 seconds behind the tree, shoot it, and heal. Literally no reason to engage here. Exactly, it's panic why you engaged, and emotions are never the right decision. You have to make decisions based on logic, so never push because you panic. It's a bad idea. Alright, so now you have cover, you're still getting lasered. Only 3 seconds for the zone to start moving, so it's getting tough now to get a good rotation. But even when the zone starts moving, you still have a little bit of time to use this area. Use it now before you're forced into a terrible spot. Once the zone gets smaller and smaller, you have fewer opportunities to move to a different spot. So move as early as possible, or take the risk of being the very last person to move and hope that you can be the third party. Right? Those are your only 2 options. If you don't do it now and you're just waiting here, then you're forced into a bad position, which is not okay. You fired from far away with the wingman too. If you guys had longbows, it would have been better. Try to sneak up closer on a flank. To be fair, if your aim is good enough, that range is fine for the wingman. It's just not good to give away your position there, because they were already engaged and you should have used that to get to a better position. Also, you get the nice arc sticky on the down guy here, but I want to point out, you're not being shot at, even though you're in a bad position, and the gas is obscuring you right now, and this team is engaged with the other team, and they're mainly focusing the other team and one of your teammates that's out too far. So once you aim this arc star, you have time, and just like with the circle, time is a luxury that you have to use, because you won't always get it. You have time to aim the arc star here, you don't have to throw them really nearly at their reaction. Hold it, wait for somebody to reload, to heal or something, so that you can ensure it sticks, rather than just chucking it on the wall near where they are and hoping somebody gets hit by it. The guy you end up hitting is already down, but you could have definitely at least ensured 1 sticky there with the 3 arc stars, or, you know, a better throw at the very least. And if you're getting shot by this team and you have to get out of here, shoot this barrel that you just dropped. Also, it's your last barrel, you didn't hold one for when you need it. Alright. So you guys end up contesting the circle here, because just like before, you were afraid of getting out of it. I wouldn't have tanked that tick of the zone there, it's too dangerous. You should have rotated earlier, like we said. But then when you go up here, the problem here is that you don't have a plan, because you made a panic push, right? So you're just responding to things that are happening. You're not following a plan. Even if the plan fails, you still have ideas of how you can still fix it. If you're making these decisions based on panic, then you don't know what to do. Right now you're on the high ground, and there's a couple things you could do. You could hold ADS, peek over the corner with only your head, scout for these teams. You could heal. You could wait for your ultimate and drop it here to save yourself. You could prevent people from pushing you. You could cover for your teammates. You could wait for a barrel to pop that on the corner and save yourself. Or you could just hold here, crouched. Ideally, don't stand still. But you don't do any of those things and you end up sprinting around. Like you're sprinting back and forth. And this makes a lot of noise, right? So this is potentially one of the only things you could do that's actually bad in this situation versus a neutral decision. Because it actually gives away that you took this high ground. And you're not actually getting any value out of this. You're not getting health back, you're not scouting, and then you decide to drop down. You didn't see them, you didn't scout properly, so I don't know why you would drop down here, and you get punished for it. There was no need. Stick on that high ground and look where they are first, make a plan, and then play accordingly. You do get a nice ulti, which hits all of them, so you tell it to your teammates, and they end up pushing in. But yeah, big mistake there on not having a plan, on staying in this bad spot instead of rotating for too long. So whenever you notice that you're making a decision based on panic or on fear or on greed, which we all do when we're playing because a lot of shit is thrown at you, just calm down for a sec, get to a safe spot and be like, alright guys, this is the situation, this is where the teams are, what are we doing right now?